Alright, hey guys, it's Scissors, and today we are going to be covering a sub-week topic from the pagan perspective from a while ago. Hi, cat. And that is potions and brewing and things of that nature. However, I'm going to cover it from a little bit of a different angle. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the preliminary stages rather than the actual doing. Because there's a lot of things to take into consideration before you go to make any sort of potion or tea or tincture or anything, no matter what technique you're using. So before you begin, before you start doing anything, what is your purpose? Write it down. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish, and what technique best suits what you're doing? Can you allow a lot of time to let a tincture sit on the shelf for a couple of months, or do you need an instant tea? How many ingredients should you use? You can take numerology, or you can just say this many taste good together, it works. And will you include any non-plant ingredients, such as crystals, words, because words can be used, and color. Alright, so before you use an herb, there are a couple things to think about. What are the magical associations of the plant, or the magical properties? Not just one, but all of them, because looking at the whole list of magical properties of the plant will help you look at it a little bit differently. What, if any, is the folklore behind the plant, and will this affect what you're doing? Such as, if you're in love, don't cut parsley, because you will cut your love. What are the medicinal and non-magical properties of the plant? And this is one that I don't think too many people really take into consideration, from what I've noticed. And it can be dangerous if you don't. Not everything you find in your kitchen is safe to consume. What's gonna happen? Take into consideration what will happen if you burn it, if you eat it, and you might have a certain condition or something about you that makes consuming that herb dangerous, such as being pregnant, and so on and so forth. Nutmeg is poisonous, and other things, but apple seeds contain arsenic, which I hope we all know is not good for us. Poppy seeds, enough said, don't eat poppy seeds before a drug test. And yellow dock is a laxative, so you might want to think about those things before you go and eat them, or smoke them in incense. Yeah. What, if any, are your personal associations with the plant? A lot of people will just take a book and go through and say, this one is for this, and this one's for this, and this one's for this, and that's it. Then that's not necessarily true, because your own personal associations, if you are trying to use a plant for harmony, but you've had a bad history with that plant, and it makes you think of a bad situation, it's not going to be as powerful for you, and it might work against you. So, personal associations do count for a lot. 5. What does it smell and taste like? This links back to personal associations. If you don't enjoy the smell of it, if you're making an incense, or even if you're consuming it, or the taste of it, it's not going to work very well for you, because you're putting negative energy into consuming it. Alright, so tools. Needless to say, no matter what you're doing with potions and brewing and incense making and so on and so forth, there are tools that you're going to have to use. For the longest time, I would hear every here and there, it was told that whenever you are working with herbs in a magical sense, you are not supposed to let them touch anything that is metal, or you should not use metal tools, no metal spoons, no metal pots, no metal cups, etc., etc. So why? It was never explained to me. So I went and did a little bit of research. This is a rather old practice, and there's a couple reasons for it. The first one that I found was that metal, when heated, can and often does slightly alter the properties of the herbs and water, which is from moonmusings.com. Ultimately, I don't think that's enough of a reason. If it's going to slightly tweak what you're doing, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And you have to realize that you can't sterilize magic. You can't create a little bubble that has like no dust, no slight variations in what you're doing, because it's a part of nature. You're trying to imitate nature, and you can't do that in a sterilized sense. It just doesn't work. And if you're going to take into account every teeny tiny detail like that, you're going to drive yourself nuts. But there are some other reasons. So, metal is harder to clean, and using non-metal tools, which are easier to clean, you prevent contamination of the saps. You don't want to mix saps because you'll mix properties, oftentimes medicinal properties, such as if you happen to be using the same knife to cut an herb that you don't want to consume as with the plant that you do want to consume, you could mix the saps and then be like, well, shit, and it sucks. So clean your tools, and yes, and metal ones are harder to clean. When heated, metal does leach. Oftentimes, more malleable metals will leach into whatever it is that you're doing, leaving a metal taste, which not only tastes bad, but it tastes bad. And depending on the metal, you might not want to be consuming it. Yeah, so if you're going to use metal, make sure that it is a non-malleable metal. So if you can bend the spoon, it's probably not the best to use. Cast iron is totally a yes for this, because if you've ever tried to bend a cast iron pan, you'll know that the thing's not gonna budge. So it's not malleable, it's not gonna leach into your food, you're good to go. But mostly the whole don't use metal is weight of tradition. A lot of the metal tools that we have now are a lot better than the ones that we used to, and for the most part don't contain lead. So you don't really have to worry about it as much, except for like knives and cross-contamination of saps. Also, keep a separate mortar and pestle for edible versus non-edible if you can. Again, to prevent cross-contamination, you don't want to poison yourself, and label them or make sure that they look very, very different. When it comes to a mortar and pestle, wood is not a good idea, and neither is metal. Metal ones and most wood ones are way too light, and it's hard to actually like grind things in them or pound anything down because you don't have the weight. So I would recommend stone if you can get it. Marble is best, and if you can't get a stone one, then ceramic isn't too bad. Alright guys, so that's it for my basic ramblings about the prior to portion of potions and tea and tincture and so on and so forth making. I hope you enjoyed it, and there will be a couple resources down in the, or wherever, in the description box. I do highly recommend Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. If you are looking for herbal stuff, it's awesome. And there are some other books that I will put down there. And if you have any questions, or you think that I've left anything out or missaid anything, let me know, because that's awesome. Not when I leave things out, but when you guys catch it and let me know, because I appreciate it. Alright, so that's it. Much love and blessed be.